Who's next?
Hey, how y'all doing? Back again with another great episode of the If Factor Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy Robinson. Today we have someone special. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is RIANA Jones, and just excited to be here. Thank you, Jeremy, for having me on the show.
No problem. So, how are you doing mentally, physically, and emotionally?
Yeah, I would say that I am doing really well in all elements. I have been really focused. My motto for the year is just embrace joy, choose joy. And so that has been carrying me over the last 6 months through all of the crazy things we've all been experiencing. And so in the midst of chaos, I am still doing very well, and I thank God for that. Physically, mentally, spiritually, I'm just like in a really good place in my life. I think mostly because I'm choosing to be. So,
I love that. I love that. And that's always good to be. That's why I started with that because a lot of times people don't get asked that. But
yeah,
good in all areas, then you'll figure it out.
yeah,
World, I'm gonna be honest, there's been some things going on though. It's like, what?
yeah,
Again? What's going
yeah.
on?
It's crazy.
Yeah. But I say, what led to you attending Clark Atlanta University?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Clark Atlanta was not on my radar initially. I grew up outside of Detroit, and so for me, my dream school was Michigan State. Since I was in middle school, it's like I'm going to Michigan State. And then when I junior year started applying for schools, I was telling my mom like I'm only applying for to Michigan State because I knew I was going to get in. I was a very great student. So I
Yeah.
wasn't worried about it, but my mom was like, you can't apply to only one school. You have to just like put feelers out and see what else is out there. And that was really hard for me because again, I had my like tunnel vision on Michigan State for so long. And so honestly, what even got me curious about HBCUs altogether was Stump the Yard.
Uh,
Around the time I was in school, Stump the Yard had just came out. And it was totally different than any collegiate experience I had ever knew existed. I was first generation college student, so I didn't have anyone, let alone who was a college graduate, but an HBCU graduate. And I grew up in Michigan, which is very different than places like Atlanta, where you see the Clark Atlanta, the Morehouse, the Spelman alumni everywhere. I think at the time, my career, or whether you call them the admissions counselor at my high school, the only person that they knew went to an HBCU was one student in the history of the school, and it was Spelman. And so Stump the Art was my introduction to HBCU culture. And I was like, oh, like maybe I should apply to an HBCU. So I applied to Clark because my mom told me to apply to multiple schools and because of Stump the Yard. But at the same time, I still didn't want to go because I was like, I'm just doing this to make my mom happy.
yeah.
Um, and then I remember later, it was around December, November, around the holiday time, I got a email from Clark Atlanta that said that they were offering me a full tuition scholarship. And I was like, I have to go. I didn't want my education to be a burden on my mom. And so for me, being able to go to school for free was really important. And Michigan State had offered me a little bit of money, but not at what Clark Atlanta was offering me. So that was literally what brought me to Clark Atlanta. But I always say like God knew how to get me to Atlanta and how to get me to Clark Atlanta. He knew it was going to be the financial support because there was nothing else that was going to get me there. And I am so thankful that I even blindly just followed God's direction and God's path for my life because Clark Atlanta was probably the best things that has ever happened to me. It really helped developed me to be the woman I am today. Clark Atlanta feels like family every time I think about my experience. And so I didn't know I was what I was getting into when I applied. Again, I was just applying because I had to. But it has become such an important part of my story. And so I love, love, love Clark Atlanta. I love all my people from Clark Atlanta. And am very grateful that I again just follow God, even if I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time, and decided to go to Clark Atlanta.
That's amazing. I'm glad you went. You graduated, and then you
Yeah.
went on to go to Vandy for grad school. I would say, like, how was that transition leaving the HBCU to go to a PWI for? Uh,
Yeah, it was hard. I had 2 years in between when I graduated from Clark Atlanta and when I started Vanderbilt. And during those 2 years, I was working in consulting, which culturally was also very different than Clark Atlanta. And so it was the first time in what, like 4 or 5 years where I had to really recognize the differences that come with just being a Black woman and having to reintegrate into white America. And so consulting was my first like reintroduction to that. And then I went to Vanderbilt. And again, in my mind, the collegiate experience is now Clark Atlanta, it's now family. And Vanderbilt is a phenomenal school, but I just didn't have that same level of community that I did when I was in undergrad. So it was just difficult. And plus, I went to grad school during the pandemic. And so the second year of grad school was completely virtual. And so I was in Nashville, Tennessee, never lived there until deciding to go to Vanderbilt all by myself and now stuck in a 900 square foot apartment, couldn't go anywhere. And so it was just a really interesting time in life and again, drastically different than my undergraduate experience, but also still very grateful for ultimately landing at Vanderbilt and being able to soak up so much knowledge from the professors there, as it really, again, just another moment in life that I think was positioning me for what's next. And even through the midst of some of the challenges from a community perspective, or just, I think everyone was struggling socially during that time. I wouldn't change it. Like, I think everything happened the way it was supposed to happen for a reason. And so, no knock to PWIs. I think they're obviously amazing schools, but I think again, I always say Clark Atlanta was like family, it was home. And then Vanderbilt for me was more of that development and push to be more committed to specifically the education sector because that's I was studying education policy. And so it was grounding me to become a greater education practitioner.
I loved it. I loved it. I'm proud that you was able to not only go to both schools but finish, but also get some great from both. And
Yeah.
look at where you are today. So
Yeah.
definitely proud of that. I'll say, what is your it factor? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, love that question. I think it's really interesting. So for me, outside of like some of the things I've mentioned already around like education and some of the other things I'm super passionate about, ultimately what has made me who I am is being raised by a single mother, my grandmother, all of my grandmother's hundreds of sisters. I have been surrounded by Black women my entire life.
Mhm.
And I don't say that to acknowledge any deficit that may come with that, because obviously that implies a lot of things. But I say that because the Black women who surrounded me were women who were so resilient, who took every problem thrown their way and created greatness. Like my grandmother alone, my grandmother had my mom when she was 16. At the time, you couldn't even go to public high schools when you were pregnant. And so she had to go to an alternative high school just to finish out her schooling. And now she's a VP at one of the largest banks in America. And so that alone was the type of people I was surrounded by. And so it really instilled this idea of like failure is a choice. Life can be hard, but ultimately, if you make the decision to want to continue to prevail, you can prevail. And that has been what I have been hoping to instill in other women who have grown up in similar situations and similar communities, and has continued to be one of the anchoring points for why I decided to pursue education policy, why I work in corporate social responsibility, why I decided to do planted everything that I've decided to do over the last few years have been really grounded in just my admiration for Black women, and my hope to continue to make the experiences that we are going through a little bit easier. Um, and so, yeah, that's what makes me me. It shows up in literally every part of my life. I talk about that often. Like, I always like to think about the themes that you start to just see as you're going through life. And that has been a common one for me. It's why I'm an AKA. It's like literally everything that has brought me to be who I am today has been because of my mother, my grandmother, my aunties, and all the million of Black women who have poured into me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that you always have been bringing women together. I mean, even when we was at Clark, I would say you started Femdelacreme. That's one of my questions. When I was looking at your bio, I was like, she done a lot, and it's always tailored to giving back to people, specifically Black women. And I feel like that's what you're supposed to do. I'm
Yeah.
proud that you're doing that. And even while me bringing on floor on a show, I was like, man, got to give her flowers because you've been doing this since you were younger, and now you're getting old. You're still young, but you're still getting older.
You
You're still
know.
doing it. So, what inspired you to start filming that cream?
Yeah, again, exactly what I was just saying. I wanted to just be able to pour back into other young women. I knew, again, I grew up outside of Detroit, but I had so many resources around me that made sure I stayed on a straight path.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, like I can acknowledge that as a privilege. Not everyone has those same resources. And so when I started Femme, I was mostly thinking about the girls who didn't have access to other women in their life to help pour into them, to help guide them, to help them just really believe in themselves and develop the confidence needed to pursue their goals. I also, at the time, was a business student at Clark Atlanta and saw that the business students had so much access to career development when you think about like resume building, interview prep, that a lot of the other schools on campus did not have, unfortunately. And so I was like, how can I help support, even if it's something small? That was what I was thinking during that time. And so I decided to just start bringing girls together and saying, like, how can we just teach each other? And so when I was a sophomore, the initial group of Femme was about 20 girls, many of which who were my friends, and girls who were coming from all different majors, all different walks of life. And we would just come together and talk about, like, okay, what do we want to do after this? What steps need to be taken in order to get there? What are some of the other elements of our womanhood that we need to develop that maybe we aren't getting from traditional academia when you think about more like mental health and physical well-being. And so we just started doing programs together, and that grew, where then we started bringing other girls in, developed the mentor mentee model to pair the upperclassmen girls with underclassmen women. And then we also start going into communities in Atlanta, churches, schools, to start helping to plant the seed for high school students as well. And just we're trying to create this bridge to success and really also create community of women who would just like surround each other and support each other
Mhm.
along the way. And so there was a lot of the professional development, bringing in speakers from some of the like best companies um across this country, but there also again was that community element, that sisterhood element, and just showing another woman like, hey, I got you, like whatever your goal is, even if it's in a totally different discipline than mine, like whatever I can do to help support you, like let me know. And we just really created strong bonds and relationships through that, where the program has now sunsetted, but these are some relationships that I will carry for years and years. And so 10 years of programming, over 300 girls impacted during that time. And it was just something that I did not expect to happen. Again, I was just thinking like, how can we support our immediate circle within Clark Atlanta? And that grew to being able to support girls across the country. And so it was I was very grateful to be able to help steward that.
That's so dope. That's so dope. And I say, my next question is, who are you outside of all that you do?
Um, Outside of all of that, it's really interesting because inherently I am all of that. Like every part of me is like always thinking about those things.
Mhm.
Um, but outside of that, I am newly married. So now I'm a
Congrats.
wife, which has, thank you, been such a beautiful journey.
Mhm.
I am queen of the beehive. I love dance. I love all sorts of art forms and just being able to express yourself creatively. I love people. I love community. I love sushi. Like I am just, I would say I'm just a girl who has a lot of big goals, but also continues to want to bring people along the journey as I am looking to continue to prevail and grow. I'm always thinking about what can I do for the next person so that they can also prevail and grow. And so that's really who I am.
I love that. I love that. And I say thus far, you spent your career at the intersection of corporate leadership and community impact. And that's big, working for Capital One, working for Converse, working for Deloitte, to name some of the companies that you have worked for. But what does it mean, to build out community in those big and large institutions?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So over the last few years, I would say like corporate social responsibility is a hot topic.
Mhm.
There's a lot of folks who are interested in the career field and people have realized like sometimes it's a little bit challenging working for nonprofits if you want to be able to also like financially support yourself or working for schools if you want to financially support yourself. Unfortunately, that's just like the structure of our country. So a lot of people are interested in corporate social responsibility. I think for me, again, what brought me there and what has been rooted in how I have been supporting these different corporations is my own experiences and being a byproduct of programs that leverage corporate resources rather than be financial or human capital in order to come to fruition. And so for me, I have just been holding on to that piece while being in this work. And in the midst of all the, again, we talked about a little bit, all the crazy things that are going on, it's like, how can I continue to advocate within my roles at these organizations for what's right and what's needed on the ground? Because although the ultimate mission of these corporations might not be directly tied to community, they are interacting with consumers every single day. And so just reminding folks that we have an obligation to show up for these communities if we are um, expecting them to support us as well. And so a lot of my work has stemmed in youth development, um, education reform, even while in corporate spaces and helping them to develop programs that will teach students skills that are relevant to the workforce today. Um, and so, yeah, for again, I think to answer your question, it's mostly just staying rooted in my it factor,
Mhm.
continuing to advocate for folks while in these conversations with leaders and reminding them like these are our consumers, these are the communities our employees work in. So we do have a responsibility to show up for them.
Indeed. And you speak so lightly on it. You do some amazing things. I like it. You just speak so lightly on it, like, yeah, I do this. I give back, But you speak so lightly on it, and I say that's why we commend you today, because that's what's up. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we here to help other people, and it's
Yeah.
cool to see in every area of your life you help other people, man. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I say, what turned your you turn your awareness into action. Let me get myself right. You turn your awareness into action. With your launch of Planet Soap. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, as I mentioned, a lot of what I've done historically has been mostly focused on like access to careers, access to education. But in the midst of that, I always try to think about the wholeness of humanity.
Mhm.
And you can't achieve your professional or educational goals if you are struggling mentally, if you're not feeling your best self physically.
Mhm.
And so that has always been like in the back of my mind. Even when I was doing Femme, again, I mentioned like we would take a step back from some of the professional development to do like yoga classes and some other things that more so nurtured our wellness.
Mhm.
And then even in the work that I do today, I'm talking a lot about students and what students need, but at the end of the day, these students are also people. So outside of the education piece, like what are some of the elements that we're not thinking about that might impact them more environmentally, their like their home experiences that might also show up in the classroom. And so Black womanhood, to tie all this together, is so complex in the sense of not only do we have to think about the barriers that exist to get to the careers, the education, but also there's so many barriers that exist when it comes to physical health. And over the last few years, I have been obsessing over that. I have been someone who has been just like getting trying to research more about like clean products, getting an understanding of how the ingredients in our beauty products are impacting us every single day.
Mm,
And through all of that research, um, just learned more about some of the detriments that come with the skincare products and beauty products that we leverage when you think about in comparison to some of our counterparts, where Black women are more likely to get cancer, experience infertility, and a lot of other health issues simply because of beauty-related chemicals that they're not aware of that are in their products.
mm,
So initially, for me, it was just more so like educating myself and trying to make better purchasing decisions.
mm,
Um, but that was also really hard. Like you're looking at all these products that are labeled clean, and then I have this app called Yuka, which will like give you every single detail around like they actually score products based off of how healthy they are. And
mhm,
so I would get a clean product, scan it, and then they're telling you about some unexpected chemical that actually is in it.
mhm.
And so I was getting really frustrated with this because I'm like, I'm trying to live a healthier life. I have women in my life who have experienced cancer. Like, I'm trying to prevent that if I can.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like there was nothing I could buy. And so I started to make my own soap bars. I watched YouTube. I took some classes with some professional soap makers out here in Virginia, and started making my own soap bars. I really enjoyed it. Again, I mentioned like the creative element that makes me me as well. And it felt a bit, I always say to people like baking, like it felt like you were creating a new recipe or a new product. And you were able to try different ingredients. And I just fell in love with it. And I was like, how can I make this more accessible to other people? Where just a understanding that you can have high quality products that are simple and still effective and leverage ingredients that we are all familiar with,
Yeah.
um, to take away some of the anxiety around having to find these like quote unquote clean products that often aren't clean. And so I started to just like send them to my friends and family, and people were like, Rihanna, this might be a bit like you might have something here. You might want to see what this can become. I
Mm,
never wanted to be an entrepreneur, like ever in my life. That's just not what I felt like was my calling. But again, my desire to want to help other people. And I'm like, well, this has helped me tremendously to be able to, again, still walk around with confidence because I feel confidently about my skin. And so I'm like, I'm not the only Black woman or person who's thinking about this. So how can I, again, leverage what I believe is a gift from God and just share that more broadly. And so that is what then blossomed into Planted and haven't fully launched yet. We go live July 14th. But again, I've been sharing with family and friends. I've been doing product testing, and just really trying to get things together for folks to experience Planted the way that I have been experiencing Planted. And I'm really excited about it. It's a different business venture than I've ever explored. Again, I've mostly been on more the nonprofit space. But it's something that I think is needed for our community. And it's something that I hope just makes people, women, feel more comfortable, confident, and know that they can trust the product, like truly trust it, because it was created with them in mind. Um, and so yeah, that is Planted, some brand new, really excited about it. But yeah, plantedsoaps.com, folks, like coming July
mhm.
14th.
Okay, go ahead. No, you know what? I don't want to cut you off. Say it again, please.
Oh yeah, no, plantedsoaps.com, coming July 14th.
Yes, indeed. Look, I'm about to support you. Send me your stuff. I'll support you, and definitely hearing what you say is kind of crazy. My wife, Courtney, been looking for like different face stuff and for years, like
Yeah,
trying to see if I something. And I don't know about the app that you have, but I was sitting there and I was like, wait a minute, that's probably something she need because, she been going through it and trying to go
yeah,
and then going to the dermatologist, like, oh, you got to use that or you got this. And I'm like, man, at some point, somebody wrong here, or not that someone's wrong, but like maybe that doesn't work for you. And like
yeah,
hearing about what you use, I'm like, hey, you family, we went to Clark. Let me try that. Let me see what happened. And
yeah,
also the what you put into it. you wouldn't use it if it wasn't something healthy. So
Yeah.
definitely support you. Gotta get it.
Yeah.
Gotta support you.
And I think a lot of people just don't think about it. We are literally fed products and marketing every single day, rather if we're turning on the TV or getting on our phone. And so you just assume these things are good for you when a lot of times these products aren't even tested on black skin. And so it's just really interesting when you start digging deep into the work that a lot of like researchers are doing in order to continue to advocate for Black bodies. And we hear things, throughout our life about think how Black women or Black people were experimented on and all these crazy things. But I think sometimes we get in the place of comfort where we just assume, well, this is a high-end brand. They're going to do what's best for their customers when unfortunately a lot of times we aren't the customers in mind, and so
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
You right about that. You make me think something about like even with me looking for products or when it comes to us trying to look for even stuff in tech, with me working in tech.
Yeah,
Crazy now that AI is so, oh, you gotta use AI, you gotta do this. And I remember one of my last engineering courses when I went to Northeastern, we was in there and they were speaking on, we gotta get blacks, to test this, da da da, and I was sitting there and I was like, I always wondered why my phone in the dark wouldn't work. Something simple as that, right?
yeah,
I'm like, it's in everything. It's in the
yeah,
products we use, it's in the tech we use, it's in what we eat. It's like, man, it's so much stuff that you just like, you would think that we crazy, but it's like, nah, it's been happening. It's just we never
yeah,
involved in it. And now that we're getting involved in it, it's time for us to support each other. So it's time
yeah,
for us to say, hey, let me try. If I tried this product so long, let me go ahead and try RIANA product. Let me see what
yeah,
happens. So
yeah.
proud of what you're doing. And it's gonna do well. It's gonna do well. Definitely, definitely.
Thank you.
So I say if you had to pick one Beyonce song to describe you, what would it be? And why?
That is so hard. I love Beyonce. A Beyonce song to describe me. I can't only say one, so I'm gonna give you two. The two that kind
Ooh.
of like have been top of mind lately. One is Blackbird off of the Cowboy Carter album. I love that song and I listen to it and I get overwhelmed with emotion because it just talks about gratitude and how the things that you had no idea would ever happen in your life when they come to fruition, like just how overjoyed and overwhelmed with emotion you are. And so it feels so relevant for me right now again because there's a lot of like big changes when it comes to like getting married, like buying our first house and all the things with my career that have been happening. And I hear that song and I'm overwhelmed with joy because it's a reminder of like you have been waiting so long for this moment. And it's happening. And so it's just very affirming for me as someone who didn't think a lot of these things would ever happen. That's one. And the other one that always comes to mind is I Was Here.
Love
Just
it, song.
yeah, just because it's just so rooted in purpose and
Yeah.
how you want to leave this world and leave a mark.
Mhm.
Make sure folks not only remember you, but feel positively impacted by the work that you have done. And so for me, for so long, that has been my goal. Like in everything that I do, I just want to positively impact other people. And so that song, I would say, definitely just describes like me and who I am, what I strive for sure.
I love that. I love that. And I would say you have left your mark. That's why I reached out to you today, and you continuing to leave your mark, because the things that you do, we always think that it's small, but Rihanna, you're
Yeah.
doing amazing things. That's why God is blessing you and going to continue to bless you no matter what you do. So thank you for being you. Definitely, I would say that. Definitely got to say that.
No,
So I
thank you. I
say,
appreciate that.
huh?
No, I was just saying thank you. I appreciate that, especially because I think sometimes it's, to your point, it's really easy to see the things that we do as so small.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a step to just take a step back
Mhm.
and look at all the lives that you've impacted because of the choices that you've made positively impacted, I will continue to say.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just good for folks to be reminded by that because we get so caught up in our own thoughts and emotions where we're like, I just did this small thing. It wasn't that, but no, definitely appreciate it for sure.
No problem, no problem. I'll say for the young black women who want to lead in the boardrooms and in the community, what advice would you give them?
I mean, it's really simple. Just do it. Like I said, I grew up with this idea of that failure was a choice.
Mhm,
And not because life was just so easy, because it wasn't. Um, but again, I watched women who experienced way harder things than I have experienced be able to continue to create success for themselves. And so for me, it always was like, it's only up to you. Like, just do it. Do it afraid, do it without money, do it without like support and resources around you. Like, if
mhm,
something is literally knocking on your heart as like, this is something that I want to do, then you have to make that decision to just do it, and continue to uh, educate yourself, build that network, build financial resources, whatever you need in order to accomplish the goals. I'm not saying, again, like you can just do it without having to do all that, but if it's something that you want to do, you'll find a way for sure. And so just start doing the thing, whatever that thing is. And I promise you it will happen.
I love that. I love that. And I'll say, when it comes to influence versus impact, how do you define the two? And why are both important? And also why are both different?
Yeah, I see them very similar. I see influence as a byproduct of impact. When I think about impact, it is more action based. It is the choices, the actions that you are making in order to positively change communities. I see influence as being how people respond to that. And so if you are positively impacting community, the hope is that you are inspiring other folks to do the same or just to make better choices and decisions in life. And so, um, I think staying grounded in impact will allow you to make bigger and better influences as well, is how I see them. Um, I didn't look up the Webster's dictionary version, but in my mind, like they're very interconnected, but it's a bit of like impact first, influence second,
Mhm.
impact action, influence more like inspirational, and the byproduct of how people respond to your impact.
I love it. I love it. I say that's the definition of should be in Webster. That's it.
Right.
Before we do close, when it's all said and done, what would you like to be remembered for?
Yeah, like I said, I just want to make a positive impact in at least one person's life. Like that's all that I care about, when all said and done, even if it's just one human being who is like, my life has been just drastically different because of whatever impact of
Yeah,
that Rihanna has made. To me, that is just like a huge accomplishment. Everything I do, again, I say is like centered in people. And so to be able to see people's lives change for the better is what I want to be remembered for, and what I hope, when I'm no longer here, is still evident in the people that are still here for sure.
I love that. I love that. I say, been having a great conversation with you today. Thank you so much. I say, would you have any questions for me?
Yeah, no. One, thank you for this as well. Would love to like hear more about what made you start the podcast, maybe like why you're choosing certain. I've been like peeping the people that you're choosing as well, and that has been like one of the things I've been super curious about because I know a lot of folks often try to go to the person who has like the most followers or the most this, and it seems like just observation, like you've been really rooted in showing folks how like everyday people can make an impact. And so I just wanted to hear from you like more about what kind of inspired that and how you've been going about selecting folks to join your space.
Great question. Thank you so much. I love the questions always. I would say that the Impact podcast started, back in 2019 in college, getting ready to graduate. So I came back from grad school. I mean, not grad school, but came back from my engineering school. And I was struggling in that one last class, and I was praying. I was like, God, you get me through this. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something. I don't know what it's gonna be. I got through the class. I graduated. I started working, and it just kept coming back. The guy was like, "Hey, you still ain't. What you gonna do? Like, what we gonna do?" And had friends that worked in media. Thank God for Clark Atlanta because a lot of people were majoring in media. It's a cool university because yes, it's family, but also it's cool to see your friends work in their industries now. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So to see my guy was like, "Man, bro, if you do a TV show." I'll edit it, shoot it, and whatever. I'm like, a TV show? Ain't nobody about to watch me. That was one thing. But two, I started forgetting about the ain't nobody gonna watch me. And I started thinking, like, what am I gonna talk about? He's like, you
Yeah.
talk about tech, bro, da 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 da. You can bring more athletes down the line. And at first I was like, I'm gonna stay on tech because that's what I work in, that's what I deal with. And I started it with a person, another guy. Two
Mhm.
episodes in, he was like, "Yeah, I can't do it, man. You into it, but
Yeah.
and I don't want to like mess up your drive or whatever."
Yeah.
I started doing those interviews, and long story short, I was sitting there watching TV with my mom, watching a football game. My mom was like, "Baby, you should interview them. Like, reach out to these people too. Don't just limit yourself to people in tech. You should
Yeah.
everybody, no matter their field." So have a new website coming out soon. And the crazy thing I said to my friend Sierra was, "Hey, man, when we doing this website, the biggest thing I want people to know is, yes, you may see someone famous, but you're gonna look again. You're gonna see a teacher. You're gonna see a doctor. You're gonna see an
Yeah.
officer. You need to see different people because that's not promoted in the world, and it should be.
Yeah.
Because all of us make impact that can change someone. That's why I say change the narrative. So love what I do with the podcast, and I realized way back in 2020, not 2019, during the pandemic 2021, I started to realize it ain't about the views, it ain't about the likes, it ain't about how many people follow you. It's about telling your story.
Yeah.
Through me telling your story, that's able for God to be able to be in there. And I needed to make space for God. So I learned that through what I was doing because I realized it was bigger than me. I thought
Yeah.
that, hey, I'm gonna get this, I got a big person on. Oh man, it's about to. And I started realizing I'm still gonna interview the same people. I don't feel the need to, I guess, chase after that next big follower, this person or I will probably put out videos like, hey, I want to bring this person on, but it's so genuine in what I do. And I say, it ain't me. Because the human
Yeah.
me would have been trying to run through all that stuff, but it ain't none
Yeah.
of God. So I thank God for giving me the platform and be able to bring people on. So when I'm selecting people, I'm always at a process of like, you know, some people like I never met this guy a day in my life. How you know about me? I researched you. I seen what you do on LinkedIn. I seen what you do when you on social media. Need to be good or bad. I'm gonna look. I'm not a judger. I'm like, let me look. Who's it? Oh, that's what Rihanna. Okay, yep. Got to bring her on. And other women around me. My wife spoke about you. Her friend spoke about you. And I was like, okay, if people keep going speaking about her, I need to go ahead and have her on the show because I don't know her like that. But I said, I know,
Yeah.
in fact, the family need to know her because she's doing amazing things. So that's how I look at everybody. So the
Yeah.
same thing with the famous people. I can't just, oh, that's so and so. All right, bet I want them to come on. No, let me research them. Let me see what I like. Okay, they do. Oh, that agree. Okay, let's do it. And I think that I pray about it. I pray about it and I say, hey, let's do it. But thank you for asking that because nobody ever asks, how do you do it or how do you reach out to people? That's literally what I do. I can't randomly. I tried that randomly reaching out to people and I can't do it.
Yeah.
It sounded good. Like, oh, let me reach out to so and so. Yeah, I want to bring them. If I don't jive with them, I ain't about to. Nah, I don't want
Yeah.
to tell that type of story. I want to make something up just to try to get famous or something. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, that's why I do it.
No, I love that. And I love that you are being genuine about it because that's so important to your point of like ultimately you just want to be able to tell people stories and help even like the unspoken heroes have a platform, which I think will create beautiful impact in this world in the it factor family. And so, no, kudos to that and just staying grounded in like your why as well and making sure because it's very easy to get caught up in like the numbers or this person has this person has that. But ultimately, like you said, if you want to do the thing that God has like planted in your heart and make sure you're doing it in a way that is genuine and going to help to serve folks for the better, like you got to stay rooted in that. And so, no, thanks for sharing.
Oh, man, I say one last thing you made me think about is that young lady said that was on the show the other day. She was like, "You have brought on different people from her brand. She has the JB agency where she bring athletes and also sports personnel on."
Oh, cool.
And she was like, you always genuine what you do, but you always follow up. You always reach out to people. You always try to support them. And I said, hey, I'm here to help people. I'm not getting, I said, hey, I may get a check from YouTube. This may happen. Okay, that's cool. That's just off the strength of what I have built. But the thing is for people to look back and say, dang, Jeremy helped me. Like you said, that's all I want. When I'm dead and gone, I was a nice guy. I helped people. He was a family man. And you know what? He believed in helping people. I'm good with that. I don't need nothing else.
Love it.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I love that for sure.
But thank you so much. I don't want to hold up the rest of your time, but thank you so much for the day.
Yeah, no, thank you so much again for allowing me to share space with you and share more of my story. Really appreciate it.
Indeed. And let me know now when you coming on and like pin your stuff up. I'll let you know this episode coming out as well. It's gonna come out at some time, but I'm gonna cut up a snippet to come out around that time. So
Okay.
just remind me or send me that date. Just email it to me and let me know once you air, and I'll make sure to put it out around that time.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that.